Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Kris Gopalakrishnan, Ms. Professor Ravi Dhingra, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you all with us today and a very warm welcome to the fourth AIMA-Dr. K.S. Basu Memorial Lecture. Kris, it's a great privilege for us to have you with us today, and many thanks for agreeing to deliver this year's AIMA's Dr. K.S. Basu Lecture. You're a friend of AIMA, and we appreciate your acceptance of our invitation to speak. A co-founder of one of India's most iconic startups, Infosys, you are now using your wealth to support upcoming innovators and entrepreneurs. You're trying to make an impact beyond wealth generation by funding brain research and healthcare innovation. You're the perfect person to talk about setting the innovation agenda for Indian business. Thank you for joining us and a very warm welcome to you. Professor Dhingra, we owe this opportunity to you as you take Dr. Basu's legacy forward as the managing trustee of Dr. K.S. Basu Trust. Thank you for partnering AIMA in holding this lecture and allowing us to celebrate one of AIMA's early leaders. A veteran management leader, you have worked in the US, Europe, Asia, and Pacific, and you've been associated with major companies including Bristol-Myers Squibb, Procter & Gamble, and Spectrum Marketing. Thank you for joining us and a very warm welcome to you. It's a great pleasure for me to also introduce Dr. Suneeta Reddy, who's the president of AIMA, and we are grateful to her for having agreed to moderate the session. She leads one of India's largest healthcare conglomerates and has successfully introduced many innovations in healthcare delivery. She is an enthusiastic promoter of Indian innovation and reaches out to leading technology institutions such as IIT Madras for new ideas and perspectives. We are delighted that she is able to join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, the AIMA Dr. K.S. Basu Lecture commemorates one of the founders of modern Indian management and an outstanding institution builder. Dr. Basu was a pioneer of Indian HR management, and he went on to become a director at Hindustan Lever. A keen promoter of modern management, he helped found the Bombay Management Association and served as its president from 1961 till 1966. He served as the AIMA president between 1963 and 1966 and led the Association of Asian Management Organizations in the late 60s and early 70s. He was the first director of the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. His passion for management learning and excellence remains an example for us at AIMA. Today's lecture is on a very important issue of India's transformation into an innovation-led economy. Kris will talk or present about setting the innovation agenda for Indian business and help us appreciate the new dynamics and imperatives of growth in the emerging business environment. Indian market is outgrowing scarcity of essential goods and services and is beginning to demand not just low prices, but also novel and better things. Indian businesses have to achieve a balance between affordability and sophistication of products and services. For that, there needs to be a shift from the mindset of assured and immediate profits to one of market creation and dominance. The spending aversion acquired during the era of scarcity and control has to give way to expansive imagination and moonshots. The future business growth will come by replacing what is popular today with something more exciting and beneficial. India is beginning to see a cultural change from the make-do jugaad to an ambition of getting rich through innovation. Many businesses are putting money into at least making newer, better versions of things instead of merely replicating them. India's startup sector is beginning to bet on radically new solutions to breed new unicorns. Indian business has both the incentive and the compulsion to focus on genuine innovation, and India has the talent to do so. We look forward to hearing Kris's thoughts and learn more deeply about the innovation agenda for India. But before that, may I now invite Professor Dhingra to address the audience. Over to you, Professor Dhingra.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good evening. The trustees of the Dr. K.S. Basu Memorial Trust are delighted to support and partner with AIMA on this fourth annual memorial lecture. The trust was formed to honor the memory and celebrate the legacy of Dr. Kalyan Sundar Basu, a leading management thinker, educator, boardroom director, and institution builder in 20th century India. He was a visionary leader and educator who inspired and mentored a whole generation of students who have made their mark as CEOs, entrepreneurs, and industrialists in India and around the world. By the 70s, he had become an internationally recognized management educator and practitioner, lecturing and advising around the world. As I look back, there were three strong building blocks or pillars that defined his life's work. First was his pursuit of achieving excellence in every sphere. He believed that whatever he did had to be done exceptionally well. Second was the strong ethics and discipline values, which he instilled in all those he worked with. He was a pioneer in pushing for good corporate governance, the G in the ESG framework as we know it today. Third was his passion for Indianizing management training and practice. He was a staunch early advocate for developing a homegrown management model, teaching management concepts and practices in the Indian setting, reflecting Indian values and management style. It was my and my sister's privilege to have known Dr. Basu as a professor and mentor over a span of almost 30 years. My fellow trustees, including Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Palekar, who are here in the audience today, and I thank you, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, for graciously agreeing to deliver this year's memorial lecture. Thank you, Dr. Suneeta Reddy, for moderating this session, and Mrs. Sethi, Mr. Grover, and the entire AIMA team for hosting this event, and to all you attendees who have taken the valuable time to be here this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dhingra. And now may I formally welcome the President of AIMA, Dr. Suneeta Reddy. Welcome, Suneeta. Let me now hand over the proceedings to you. I've already introduced you, so over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a special privilege to be here today to witness, for me, this first address, remembering Dr. K.S. Basu. Thank you, Kris, for participating in this year's lecture. I would like to also thank Professor Dhingra, trustee of the Dr. K.S. Basu Trust. Rekha, thank you for organizing and putting it all together. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a privilege to have all of you to join us for this Dr. K.S. Basu Memorial Lecture, which is going to be delivered today by Kris Gopalakrishnan, who is not only a co-founder of Infosys, but a leading investor of technology and research in India. He is also a great innovator. Kris, it is a privilege to have you, and many thanks for accepting AIMA's request to deliver the K.S. Basu Memorial Lecture. You have been a key leader of India's infotech industry, and you have been involved in the transition to a digital economy. You were Infosys CEO and Managing Director when the mobile and cloud revolutions got underway in the emerging digital age. In your post-Infosys career, you are using both your wealth and your understanding and wisdom to support innovative startups and to fund brain computing research in India, which is indeed remarkable. You have been supporting research and entrepreneurship at IIT, which I have personally seen, for about 25 years, and you are also associated with IISc Bangalore. Your outstanding contribution has been appreciated widely, and the government, having bestowed the Padma Bhushan to you on 2011, was indeed something that you very well deserved. We look forward to hearing your perspective on what the innovation agenda for India business should be. Professor Dhingra, we appreciate your commitment to promoting Dr. Basu's legacy. Dr. Basu was a pioneer of modern Indian management and one of the early presidents of AIMA. This lecture is our homage to the key builders, to early presidents of AIMA, and to the key builders of this institution. It is a privilege to have you, and we look forward to your continued involvement and endeavor to promote Indian management. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, India is at the cusp of economic transformation, both in terms of scale and structure. As the Indian economy grows, its role as a pivot in the global economy cannot be underestimated. It is increasingly required to take up the role of a provider of new breakthroughs to keep the global economy growing. India is widely acknowledged as a cost and process innovator, and it can still extract a lot of value by doing so. However, for the Indian economy to grow fast and consistently, from this large base, we have to do so much more. We need to create intellectual property to capture greater share of value from production and trade. Indian businesses are also coming under pressure to innovate to address the opportunities in India and the threats created by geopolitical and climatic policies of other countries. As the world changes around us, Indian businesses need to have the ambition and a viable innovation agenda. India's investment in research and development has so far been very typically that of a catch up economy. Indian entrepreneurs have largely focused on the opportunities in unfulfilled basic needs and in local affordable alternatives to foreign innovations. India's spending on R&D remains at around 1% of GDP, and the private sector's innovation spending remains below 0.5% of GDP. As shortages disappear from the Indian market and Indian consumers get exposed to the world's best products and services, Indian business has no option but to compete on innovation. Moreover, if the Indian economy is to grow at 6 to 7% growth rate, it is increasingly important that we must catch up with the large R&D spenders anywhere else in the world and therefore be around 3 to 5% of GDP. Research should be 3 to 5% of GDP. The attitudes and the incentives of Indian businesses are beginning to change. As the top tier domestic market is getting saturated and Indian companies seek growth in high paying overseas markets, there is a growing focus on innovation and research, and therefore research is being afforded a high priority, and I think the funding will follow. However, Indian businesses need to innovate for both the world and for the part of India that is trying to catch up with the large markets in India and overseas. Healthcare is an example. It is also an opportunity. And I must say that, even when we started Apollo, it was an innovation of processes. We focused on bringing quality healthcare at 1/10 of the cost by innovating processes and looking at substitutions. With the true focus on innovation, on reimagining medical equipment, is a space that is yet to be, is an area that is again an opportunity and an area that needs focus. We are to cover and make equitable healthcare all across India. While most of the innovation is happening through telemedicine, through digital, and through AI, I believe there is also an opportunity in wearable devices which are being repurposed for delivering preventive, palliative, and curative healthcare at scale at a minimal marginal cost. New structures and systems have to be imagined to deliver healthcare where the demand is high instead of patients waiting at hospitals for care. The government is trying to help the industry to innovate, especially by obtaining healthcare data of the entire population. And I think the focus on genomics will really have a large impact in the scale of innovation that we can achieve. The innovation and profit opportunity in the healthcare sector has created a rush of healthcare and digital innovators. The brick and mortar and the digital innovators hold the key to India's aspirations to have the world's most productive workforce. And I think Kris knows this very well. Not only is he our neighbor, but I have seen the center that he has set up for brain research and neurology at IIT Chennai. I believe that it has a huge scope. So thank you, Kris. If India doesn't have Elon Musk, we have someone who's smarter, and we have someone who combines good governance with intelligence and innovations. Thank you very much for being here. With this, let me invite you to speak.
Thank you, Suneeta, for the introduction. And thank you, Professor Dinkra. Rekha, it's a pleasure to come back on AIMA's platform again. This is the Dr. K.S. Basu lecture. And as you rightly said, he is remembered today as a pioneer in management education with an Indian ethos, with an Indian, uniqueness actually. And this is, clearly something that I firmly believe in, something Suneeta represents, that India can create world-class businesses, world-class industries. India can do that uniquely. I've been in the IT services industry, and it's a world-leading industry. Many good companies have emerged from India, and in Apollo hospitals, you have somebody who has taken world-class affordable healthcare to all of India. So you have two examples, and I want to use this as a example of what each one of us, each one of you can actually build out of India. So let me share my presentation now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts today. So, the driver for innovation and faster economic growth is emerging technology. I will start with one example and one thought experiment for you. In the last few weeks, all of you must have read about the introduction of a new AI tool from DeepSeek in China. In one day, the US stock market lost almost $1 trillion of valuation. $1 trillion of valuation in one day. Now, this is an amazing example of how emerging technologies can impact the economies of even the largest nations and the future of the largest of large companies. Now, AI is also not, the current version of AI is not that old. OpenAI introduced their ChatGPT model in October of 2022. So within a short period of approximately 2 years, 2.5 years, it has taken the world by storm. And AI will impact every industry. It can have significant impact on economies of countries, economies of businesses, and that's what drives innovation in the world today, and that will also drive changes in companies and will lead to faster economic growth. Now, the thought experiment I want to share with you very briefly is when I talk about cloud kitchen, what comes to your mind, right? The typical cloud kitchen that you can think of is you place an order on an app, and the order gets delivered from a restaurant nearby, or more and more now, a kitchen that has no front end but cooks the food and delivers to you within a short period of time based on your preferences. It combines the digital technology. It combines the delivery capabilities that we have built, and that's what comes to your mind, right? But very interestingly, now think about what cloud kitchen of the future is going to look like, right? You will actually share with privacy preserved your health information, your lab reports, what you are allowed to eat, how many calories you are allowed to eat, etc. Then this is, of course, shared with the entrepreneur, and entrepreneur has different meal combinations. So based on, you can let the app decide a complete menu for you for the entire month or the entire week, whichever way you want. And this meal is cooked using a robot, using the data that you have shared. So it will precisely know what your allergies are, what you are allowed to eat, how much proteins you need to eat, how much carbohydrates you need to eat, and it will prepare a tasty meal that has all these ingredients. It is put in a box. It is actually handed over to the delivery person when he or she comes, and it's delivered to your home. So it uses the data from your health information. It uses the capabilities of today, AI and robotics, to prepare the meal. There is no human involved here, a tasty meal, and in a very short period of time. And this is personalized to your requirements and delivered hot to you. And in the afternoon, the second meal comes. In the evening, the third meal comes, etc. So much so that in the future, it's believed that nobody will prepare food at home. It will all get delivered, and it will actually act as a wellness solution. All of us will eat prepared meals, prepared to your requirements based on your health information, and delivered such that you can live healthy. The feedback also can be there as you eat the meal. If you have a wearable device, it will tell you, what is the increase in sugar levels and things like that, or whether you like the meal or not, and that feedback can actually go to the next meal. So a simple cloud kitchen now, imaginatively and innovatively, has turned into a wellness business. It of course feeds you, but also looks at how you will live healthy. Now, this is a combination of multiple technologies, multiple industries, and that's what future is going to be. Everything will be reimagined in the future because of the technologies that are already existing. It's not something that you need to think of in the future. This is already existing, and this is being cooked up by entrepreneurs in the world. Now, I talked about two things here. One is emerging technologies impacting every industry. Second is, how do you combine all the different changes that are happening, opportunities that are provided by these technologies to reimagine every business. Now, let me share with you the impact of technology itself, right? This chart shows the introduction of various technologies like printing press way back in 1400s, steam engines in 1700 and things like 1800, telegraph, etc. And every one of them has had an impact on the growth of the economy, the growth of the economy of the world. In fact, the leadership, economic leadership also changed over the years. Actually, if you go back to 1400, etc., in those days, China, India were the leading economies, almost occupying 20% each of the global GDP. And over time, these moved to Europe. So in the 1800s to 1900s, Europe was the leading economy in the world. And now, of course, in the 20th century, US became the leading economy in the world with the introduction of computers, information revolution, etc. But the slope of this graph is actually tending upwards, which means that the growth rate is accelerating. In fact, it's estimated that the growth is actually 20 times what it is in the 1500, 1600 time frame. So we are growing at much faster pace. Things are happening very, very fast. And that's why I gave the example of ChatGPT, right? In 2 years, it became the most downloaded app. It is being used everywhere, and it has created huge amount of wealth. For example, NVIDIA, which makes those chips that are used by these AI machines, its market cap shot up from nowhere. It was below $1 trillion to $3.5 trillion, and lost almost 20% of its value when DeepSeek introduced its app in one day. 20% in one day. And totally $1 trillion of market cap was lost. So this is the pace at which change is happening. It's exponential in the sense that the growth is accelerating. And this is an opportunity for an individual, a entrepreneur, every business, and a country. Now, all of us will have to understand the power of emerging technologies and how do we leverage these in our businesses. Now, if I look at just a graph to show how US has gone from 3.21 to 26.9, China from 0.29 trillion to 19.4, etc., etc. Just to show that different countries are growing at different growth rates. India is growing at 6%. On the right-hand column, you'll see the growth rate. And India has now the opportunity to actually accelerate its growth, but it has to then take advantage of emerging technologies. This growth has to be built on what is the key ingredient that's necessary, which is technology, and leverage this technology to accelerate this growth. Most of these technologies most of the new products are going to be introduced. The industries are going to be reimagined by startups, by new businesses. And so if you have an ecosystem that supports new business creation, if you're an existing business, how do you work with these startups, emerging companies, and how do you take advantage of these? I think becomes very, very important. And the pace of change is so much that you need to bring these innovations inside your organization. Sometimes it's not feasible to develop these innovations, and I'll come back to this point in a subsequent slide. Here is a slide which shows the top 20 companies in the US by market capitalization. The ones in red, I hope you see this as red in your screen also, are all companies that own technology, that own IP. And this again, Suneeta talked about it, the need to own IP, the need to invest in R&D, the need to own the brand, the need to capture the maximum value creation possible. And that's why the Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi, in his Independence Day speech, I believe for the first time, used the word product nation, that we have to transform ourselves into a product nation. We have to create products that the world buys from India to the world. And here are examples. These companies have become multi-trillion-dollar companies because they have products and technologies that the world wants to buy. And of course, there are some examples of companies like Eli Lilly on the pharma space. So as we see new products coming out from the healthcare industry, which will create new cures for example, cancer or Alzheimer's, and which I believe are feasible with the multitude of technologies that are coming out now. You will see again large companies being created, valuable companies being created in these industries. The interesting thing or the opportunity is that there are so many emerging technologies that could have significant impact all around us, actually, in our lives, in our businesses, etc. I won't go into every one of them. I briefly mentioned artificial intelligence. Suneeta talked about the changes that are being brought about by genetic engineering, genomics, mRNA technology, new modalities in combining AI with fMRI or X-ray, or new diagnostics tools being created. We also see how even wars are getting changed with drones, right? It's no more fought by people, but it's more and more being fought by machines. And we require autonomous capabilities in our machines, and these machines then fight amongst each other, and that becomes the war. In agriculture, for example, we can think about how we can, in some sense, I don't want to use the word genetically engineered because that has a bad connotation, but how we can increase the productivity, how we can increase the yield, how we can increase the nutrition in a systematic way in agriculture, and more importantly, how this technology is leveraged to preserve and distribute. And then, of course, in my example of Cloud Kitchen, I talked about how by judicially combining these products, we can create a nutritional meal, which is personalized to your individual requirements, and we reduce the wastage and things like that. Transportation is going to change, power generation is going to change. So there's so much change that is happening in the world today, and the important thing is to own the IP, to produce these products and technologies by owning this IP, and then serve the world. Make in India for the world. That's the opportunity. We're starting to do this in space, in telecom, in drones, in digital public goods like UPI. So there are examples. I already talked about IT services and healthcare. Healthcare, I'm actually very bullish on healthcare. I believe that in healthcare, we can lead the world because only India has this concept of affordable healthcare delivered to the last mile, leveraging technology. Again, Suneeta talked about telemedicine, etc. So there are significant opportunities for us. This requires us to believe in ourselves. This requires us to invest in R&D, and I'll come to this. So the agenda for growth for the country, for any business, is R&D plus innovation and high growth. You need to think like a startup, right? A startup grows more than 100% year on year. And how can you create this same culture, same intensity in your business, the same acceleration in your business, And that's what I would like you to start thinking about. How do you create an agenda for high growth led by innovation in your organization? Now, everything that we see around us has been created by people like you and me. It's not by some superhuman person or anybody like that. We have Elon Musk in our midst in India. I'm very comfortable in saying that because, in the last 10 years, we created more than 100 unicorns in India. And these are startups that started in the last 10 years, actually, more than that, actually. So we have the capability. So the future is created by these people, these businesses. And that's the reason why I believe that when there is disruptive technology, an entrepreneur or a technology leader, and the right conditions, we will be able to create a future that is about technology leadership in certain areas, and India becoming a manufacturing hub for the world, a product nation truly. India has significant advantages, partly due to the IT industry. We have a very large STEM talent pool. It's also the cultural, nuance about India. India, we give a lot of value to education, especially professional education, and our people over the years, because of the IT industry, have global training, global outlook. Many lower income family today has their children studying, working abroad, middle income, of course. And so we have the talent pool, we have the latest knowledge access, technology and equipment, money can buy. India represents 20% of the world's population. So we are a large consumer also. 60% of the economy is actually consumption led. So large market for solution. We are a lower cost economy. So I strongly believe that, when, let's say, a developed country produces a product, it's typically targeted towards the top 10% of the world. Whereas when India produces a product, it's targeted towards 100% of the world, because we are a low income country today, and affordability is a very important part of our design principle here. And so we design products that is affordable to everybody. And so we produce for the world. I strongly believe that vaccine is a good example. When US produced vaccine or Europe produced the vaccine, per dose was about $30. When India produced the vaccine, per dose was $3. And that's why India today is the vaccine capital of the world, because we produce affordable vaccine, which reaches 8 billion people. There is also a very important point here. In the 20th century, countries developed with fossil fuel, exploiting fossil fuel. Now, India is constrained to develop without destroying the climate, the nature. We are constrained to develop without destroying nature. That poses constraints on us, and I believe constraints are the ones which will allow us to create new models and new, better products and services. These constraints must be taken advantage of to rethink everything. And this is a great opportunity for India. We can develop new models for the world. How did we develop the payment infrastructure in the country? How do we develop the telecom infrastructure? Our telecom infrastructure is one of the best in the world in terms of coverage, in terms of technology. Nowhere in the world can you, for about 400 rupees, which is approximately $5, you get unlimited $5 per month, or 400 rupees per month. You can get unlimited voice calls, unlimited messages, and 1 GB of data per day. Nowhere in the world. and it's world-class service, right? So this is what India can do to create world-class companies, world-class products and services. I talked about UPI. So innovation is important for any business because growth is important, right? If you don't grow, the business will shrink. There will be less opportunities for employees to grow. Revenues will come down. Your ability to invest goes down. And so you have to grow. You have to grow significantly if you want to give opportunities for your employees and things like that. You have to be relevant. Every business has to be relevant, and that means better products and services, faster, better, cheaper products and services. Higher market capitalization allows you to leverage that as a currency for acquisition, for faster growth and things like that. There's an excitement in the company. There's a culture of innovation. This allows you to recruit good people and things like that, growth opportunities for employees. So the innovation is a must for every business. This is, I believe, has to be part of the culture, has to be part of the DNA of any organization. And innovation can be in services, innovation can be in products, but own that entire life cycle. So it starts with R&D because of the need to create new technology, create new products, create new services and things like that. Now, there are two options available. One is in-house R&D. So you need to increase spending in R&D, and I'll come back to that. Or now more and more, the thinking is changing. Where do you house your R&D? Can you house your R&D in an academic institution or within the startup ecosystem itself, rather than within your own organization? Because the cultural change that is required, when you house it in an academic institution, you interact with students give you ideas and things like that. The best thing about students is that they have no baggage, they have no fear of failure, because they never succeeded, right? They're looking forward to success. So the fear is not there. When you are a very successful CEO, you hesitate to take risk. You are afraid that you will fail. You take incremental steps and things like that. You don't take big risks. Similarly, startups, right? They have a time frame in which they need to succeed. Otherwise, they get shut down. They lose funding. So the pace at which things happen in an academic institution without fear, the space at which the startup ecosystem operates, is what we need to bring in. And so maybe house the R&D function, the R&D people in these ecosystems. Similarly, open R&D, where you outsource the R&D itself, or you work with academic institutions, and here the advantage is open R&D, where academic institutions get knowledge from everywhere. They share freely. They take the best from everywhere. They can collaborate with anybody, and that free flow of ideas, I think, benefit R&D a lot. The knowledge within your organization may be 100 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, but it's limited. The entire world is 8 billion people. So there is more knowledge outside your organization than within your organization, because you're looking at the collective wisdom of the entire world. Now, can you tap into that through open R&D and things like that? You can put, open challenges. You can do hackathons. You can do projects with academic institutions, and take the best of these inside your organization. It also lowers the cost of R&D because you can use public funding, you can use risk funding. R&D within your organization will be from your P&L, right? So, it's limited. Your ability to do R&D is limited, whereas if you leverage the ecosystem, your cost of R&D comes down, risk comes down. And the key question to ask is, what percentage of new products come from outside the organization? P&G is an example. Sometime back, they set a target saying that 50% of our new products must come from ideas from outside the organization. 50% of their products. And they set a target and went after that. The process for innovation is also important. You have to have a process is a set of steps owned by certain people, and there is a methodology, there's measurement, there are outcomes, goals, etc. So you need to have a defined process. It can be top down, it can be federated or decentralized, both are okay. And acquisition is one of the ways in which you can accelerate bringing new ideas from outside. So that's why M&A capability has to be built in. Working with startups have to be built in into the process for innovation within an organization. So I talked about funding. Typically it's internal accruals when you do R&D or innovation inside the organization. But if you do it outside, you can tap into risk funding from ventures. You can also tap into research funding from grants and things like that. Investor brings in fresh equity. That's where you can tap into it, but that's where the startups actually succeed in bringing new products and services to market much faster than an existing business, because they can tap into risk funding. And you would have heard about how startups are using equity funding for acquiring customers and growth capital, things like that. So it accelerates the ability to grow. Clearly, measurement is important, because what is measured gets done in an organization. And if you don't do anything, just do this. Percentage of revenue from new products and services. You may want to actually tie it up with saying, how many products and services did we introduce in the last 3 years, last 5 years? What is the percentage of revenue we get from that? And the board can actually specify targets for the senior management, for the executive management, saying that so much of the revenue must come from products introduced in the last 3 years, for example. So 3M had this goal, right? 1/3 of our revenue must come from products or services introduced in the last 3 years. It forces you to renew your portfolio. It forces you to do R&D, or it forces you to get the ideas from outside the company. Percentage of revenue from acquisition, improvement in profits, integration savings, so M&A things, increase in market cap. Just when OpenAI introduced ChatGPT, the market cap of NVIDIA shot up almost 4 times, right? So you can see how a particular product in the market simply changed the valuation of that company. In an M&A situation, you of course need to think about percentage of employees retained, percentage of key employees retained, etc. Because many of this knowledge resides in the minds of employees. I strongly believe that you have to work with startups. You can have an incubator or an accelerator. I won't be able to go into too much details with shortage of time, but you need to look at how you can work with incubators, accelerators, with academic institutions which have startups among them. There are 2 types of investments that you can make in startups. One is a financial investment, because these are high growth companies. You will get higher returns if they succeed. Of course, failures also can be high. That's a financial investment into a startup. But a strategic investment is what allows you to take your business to the next orbit, accelerate the growth of your business, bring new products and services, exciting products and services, which takes advantage of new technologies and things like that. When it's financial, the reporting is into the CFO, because it's a treasury function, etc. But if it's strategic, it's typically responsibility of a division, responsibility of a department. It's a line responsibility. And of course, you have to think about cultural fit, ease of integration, etc. when you work with startups if you want to bring it in. So, my call to action to each one of you is to think about increasing your R&D budgets. Suneeta mentioned that Indian industry today invests approximately 0.5% of GDP totally. I think we need to take it to 2-3%. As a country, we need to think about 4%. Government is actually increasing investment in R&D. Industry now needs to step up. Industry must need to think about becoming a product nation. We need to think about from short term to medium to long term. We need to think about faster growth from India to the world. We need to think about strategic autonomy. During COVID, we saw that several products were not available because the supply chains were broken. During COVID, cars were actually sold without the entertainment system because chips were not available. So we need to really think about strategic autonomy, being in control of our own destiny. So we need to source R&D from outside the organization. We have to work with innovation ecosystems and startups. We have to create a ease of doing business, ease of doing research, ease of working with startups, etc. Key agenda. As an individual also, you will find that the culture that a startup has is very different from a culture of a mature organization. The speed of decision making, the risk-taking ability and things like that. I think as individuals also, you will benefit if you start working with startups. Create an active M&A plan, measure and improve. This is just a slide, the last slide. I have been working with startups a lot. I stepped down from Infosys in 2014, and I now wear two hats. One is the hat of a philanthropist. That's on the left side, Pradeeksha, and on the right side is the hat of an investor or hat of a supporter for entrepreneurship and things like that. We are very active in both sides of these things. Brain research is something that I passionately support. I also support, for example, MOSIP is Modular Open Source Identity Program. It's UID moved to open source. That's now being deployed in 28 countries across the world. 28 countries. It's housed, because it's open source, it's housed in IIIT Bangalore. So think of this. Software that's being developed and maintained in our academic institution is used by 28 governments around the world. 100 million Philippine citizens are getting ID, unique ID using MOSIP, right? Via Vikas is another one which I'm proud of. We created a senior citizens forum, membership driven. We have 100,000 members, primarily in Karnataka. We are now coming to Tamil Nadu, and we want to have members in every state, chapters in every state. It's a membership driven organization which provides services and acts as a spokesperson for our senior citizens. Two of the initiatives that I'm proud of, we champion for health insurance for people above 70. The government has announced 5 lakhs as part of Ayushman Bharat for senior citizens, because senior citizens were finding challenging to get affordable healthcare. The second one is now the government has announced NABH accreditation for senior citizen homes which provide assisted care, just like hospitals. And they have also come out with standards for senior citizens homes. We champion those. So that's on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side is investments I make in startups, deep tech startups and things like that. And so, I kind of put the money where my mouth is. So let me conclude by saying that I'm very excited about the opportunity that India provides to create new businesses, to create new products and services, to accelerate our growth rate, to transform ourselves to a developed nation, transform 1.4 billion people's lives. And we can do this in an exciting path by leveraging emerging technologies, by creating new enterprises, by creating new products and services, an innovation-led agenda, which is, I believe, very exciting, high growth. So a lot of wealth to be created. Imagine from $4 trillion to $30 trillion. That is unimaginable wealth to be created in India. There is no better place than India to do this. Thank you all very much and wish you all the best.
That was simply fantastic. Rekha, I don't know how much time we have for questions, but as I see the list of questions, Kris's presentation has provided the answers for all of the questions that are here, actually. If you look at the coverage that he's made, the areas that he's covered in this presentation, it goes from, we spoke about process innovation, but, radical innovation, the importance of it, which industries, he mentioned that circle, we'll see high value innovations in medium and long term. So shall I just ask these questions, or do we have anything from the audience?
Yeah, I've just forwarded the questions from
Okay,
the
yeah.
audience.
Yeah, so there is, Kris, there's some questions. Yogesh Keshwani, often technological innovation require high capital and long gestation period. What is your view on supportive environment that the Indian government is level playing field with other countries, where it can, and how can it be improved further?
So, I believe that capital is available, talent is available. Capital goes to where opportunity exists to make money, and India is a place to make money, and capital will be there. India is attracting almost 10 to $15 billion in the startup ecosystem every year, the startup ecosystem. So I strongly believe that capital will be available. Government is looking at ease of doing business. But, I would say, yes, we need government support, but it has to be because we believe we can do it and we have to do it. I think that's the important thing. Government is also us only. It's not some different, species of people, right? It's us. So we need to make sure that our agenda becomes government's agenda, and that's what we did in IT services, right? We created an industry association, NASSCOM. We lobbied with the government to give favorable policies, and of course we delivered by creating a $300 billion industry, world class, more than 5.5 million jobs and things like that. It's in some sense unstoppable. So if we truly believe to create an industry, that we can create an industry, I believe that support will come. And I firmly believe that it's not 5 trillion. 5 trillion we will easily reach in the next 2 years. It will be probably, aspirationally, I want to think about $30-35 trillion by 2047. We can achieve it. We need to take our per capita income from 2,800 to 20,000. We have to grow from somewhere around 8, 10, 12%. It can be done. I believe it can be done.
Thank you, Kris. I think you also answered another question, which was I think, is it possible for India to reach $5 trillion economy? I think you just covered that as well. So the next question is from Arjun Datta, and he says, how can we leverage AI in business, and how can one handle failures? Also, that one goes through in this journey.
So I'll answer the second question first, and then I'll come to the first one, because AI, I think a lot of people have talked about. See, when you take risk, failure is definitely a possibility. right? What you need to do is one, create a culture that learns from failures and tries again. Failure is not the end, and that can be another talk. I can tell you that every successful person you meet has had failures in her or his life. It's not that everything will succeed the first time you do something. So failure is part and parcel of taking risk and trying to do things differently, trying to do new things. We need to just keep on trying again and again and again. We need to become better, learn from these things. Of course, we need support from family, friends. We may need funding, etc. When it comes to funding, the ability to sell your idea is very important. Ability to raise funding is very important. I can tell you in the last 10 years, I've been raising funding for everything. And I'm raising funding for this brain center in IIT. I'm part of 2 university startups. In fact, right now, there's a presentation of Nanda University happening. I'm raising money for that. I'm raising money for the startups that I support. I'm raising money for the philanthropy. Raising funding is part and parcel of this, and I believe that funding will come. And your first question, AI is like computing. Way back in 60s and 70s, computing was introduced and it became part and parcel of our life. It changed how we do everything, right? AI will become that. So you can think of this way. We started with the information revolution. From information revolution, we went to knowledge revolution. When the internet was introduced, a lot of knowledge got cataloged and made available to everyone at your fingertips using search, etc. You have knowledge available. Now we are in the intelligence revolution. At your fingertips, you will get intelligence. You will get agents that will do tasks for you. Now, think about, the example I gave, right? You just upload your lab report and it comes back with the food that you need to eat for the next, let's say 1 month. And it then delivers the food at your home, nutritional meal at your home. That's an intelligence revolution. And that's what is going to happen in the future. AI can be applied to everything that we do, and it will be applied in everything that we do. This year's Infosys Prize recognized a student who has created an earphone with AI built in. Now, with that earphone, he can filter out any noise. So he can say, when I'm talking to another person, I can say, I need to listen to only that person. I can be in a big crowd, but everything else will be filtered out. I can create a cocoon around me so 4 people can talk without any disturbance. You don't have to be in a room. Or you can say, I want to listen to only a particular sound. So I'm sitting here, but I want to accept the knock on the door. Rest of the noises you can cancel. All kinds of things are being imagined and created using AI today.
Thank you, Kris. I think, you've answered all the questions, and I think you've given a lot of impetus for people to start on this journey. So let me hand it over to Rekha to give a very formal vote of thanks. But thank you
all.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kris, for this wonderful session. I think you've always do leave people wanting more, and that's the same situation today. We have plenty of questions, but I will share them with you because we have really gone over time today. I also really want to thank you on behalf of all of us at AIMA and Professor Dhingra, who's made it possible for us to do this event year after year. Suneeta, thank you so much. I know you've got a very tight schedule and you've got some investors over, so I will not keep anybody for long now. But Kris, I just want to say that it's always a learning journey with you, and we always end up learning so much more after every session with you. I hope this time we'll have you back on the AIMA platform sooner, not later. And I look forward to working with you once again. And Professor Dhingra, thank you so much for everything. Suneeta, thank you. Thank you a lot. And thank you to all the delegates who have joined us today. I can see the comments are really fantastic and everybody is extremely happy. I'll share the comments with Kris also. But thank you for joining us and thank you all for making this program a success.